Well, greetings again, everyone. Today it's Nick Michalak and the exceptional Steve Frazier.
Hey, hey!
And we're starting off the Saw franchise with the James Wan original.
That must
Obviously.
be October.
We could go in the reverse order, probably make as much sense, I'm sure.
Well, we'll get there.
Might almost make more sense. Who knows?
Maybe.
Everything won't be a retcon. It'll all just be kind of weird foreshadowing.
Yeah, but we start off great.
Very, very clean.
Yeah.
Very clean.
Yep, clean.
So, generally we're going to be doing like all the regular unrated versions of this off of like the 8-film or 7-film Blu-ray set, so you could just grab that set and you can follow us along for the entire journey here, but
Unrated, all the way.
So we're going unrated, regular cuts, like that. So sync up to your timestamp of 0, get your subtitles turned on, and we'll give you a countdown to sync up and see where things go. So in 3, 2, 1, play. This ancient Lionsgate logo. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, geez, this...
The old LGF.
I think this was just like right at the beginning of when they were doing... Well, not really right at the beginning. I'm kind of thinking about when they acquired like Artisan Entertainment and stuff like that and everything.
I always like this Twisted Pictures with the barbed wire.
Very intriguing.
It's cool. This is... Man, I have like a flashbulb memory of the night before this opened. Of course, I was working in the movie theater at the time and got the chance to watch movies, you know, like the night before.
Sure, yeah.
And my roommate, who also worked there with me, she and I decided we were going to watch this new horror movie. It was a Thursday night before it came out. Small little theater because that was the one that was available, you know, to screen it in.
Yeah. You weren't running anything else.
Right, and it was just the two of us. And the film opens here with this guy in the tub, and he accidentally drops something down the thing, and you're like, I don't know, I have this memory of just us sitting in the Stark Theater, and I mean, just this opening scene even, and I'm like, oh my god. And then when it was over, I was like literally speechless for like 15 minutes. I just couldn't talk. Anyway, this is Leigh Whannel.
Yes, the screenwriter.
He wrote it, or co-wrote it, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Along with the director.
Also, the guy who's behind The Invisible Man that came out this year, so long career for this gentleman.
Okay. Did he write The Invisible Man as well?
He wrote and
directed? Okay. All right. He's kind of a whiny bitch in this movie, but he wrote it, so I guess I can't fault him.
I'm fairly impressed knowing that he's the actor, because also he's Australian.
Oh, really?
Him and Juan are Australian. I had no idea James
Wan's also Australian?
I had no clue this guy had an Australian accent. I'd never heard an interview from him before, apparently.
Huh. That's shocking to me.
Because he's an Asian guy. I never just... I didn't include he was from Australia.
Right.
Australia, Malaysia, but his accent is from down under.
Right. And here we have Cary Elwes.
Yes.
The Princess Bride. Which is pretty much the only thing I ever saw him in up until this.
Okay. No Men in Tights?
Oh, yeah, I guess... you know what? I saw Men in Tights and it didn't leave a lasting impression on me.
Well, it's the downslope of Mel Brooks. But
sure.
It's...
but I mean, okay, so this setup is like unbelievable, right? You've got the two people, you got the dead guy in the middle, they're both chained, it's like, holy shit, and little did we know that, like, this was basically the very first escape room, right? And, like, little did we know that it was going to become this huge thing, and people would pay money to be in an escape room, which I've done, and they're amazing.
Okay.
There are actually ones where you start off like chained up, and you have to like figure out how to like get out of it. It's awesome.
It's not for me. Sorry, no.
Well, it's a puzzle. I love puzzles.
No, thank you.
You don't like puzzles?
just don't straddle me down.
Oh, okay. I mean, there are escape rooms that don't involve physical restraints.
I'm just fine. Just show me where the door is. I just won't walk out the door.
Oh, okay. No fun for you. No fun, Nick. All
no
right.
fun.
Well, yeah, that's not going to work.
No.
like, everything about this setup is just tremendous for me. I mean, you wake up in the room, you don't know what you got, you don't know what you're doing, clearly you're in trouble. And then they try to make cute little jokes. And did you say that you just watched this recently for the first time?
Yes.
It's one of those, we talk about how, like, when you start off a scene, you kind of start the scene not at the beginning, in the middle, but after
a little further into it.
Right. Or, in the case of, like, a Lethal Weapon 2, it opens with the car chase.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of how this is.
Right. Well, generally, the reason for that in a screenplay is to maintain a momentum in the story.
Right.
You don't have to keep slowing it down and building it back up again. You can keep moving it.
Also, one of the things in screenwriting is that in the first 15 to 20 minutes, your first act, you should really identify what genre you're in.
Right.
So if you're in a horror movie, there should really be some horror that happens.
Right.
Yeah. Whether, and a lot of movies start off with, like, some sort of, secondary kill or something that isn't necessarily related to the story, but comes to play later.
It jump starts the film.
Right. Because then I'm in a horror movie.
Right.
And I feel like this is the ultimate.
I mean, even if you open this thing and just saw the environment,
right?
It just sets this is going to be a very grim, dirty type of movie, and that very much reflects a horror film.
And I mean, like, it's a legit escape room because you have to, like, use the tools around you, and he's like, hey.
And I like how you say there is a puzzle here, and he's identifying the little things here that the clock doesn't fit because it's all polished and brand new. All these little minor things that kind of just piece together some idea of what the heck's happening.
And the idea that, you wake up and there's the tape and it's got your name on it. Mm-hmm. I also like, and I think they did a pretty good job of having the two characters here who don't know each other have to kind of learn about each other, and do they trust each other? Do they have to work together?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, like, watching this in a vacuum, in the fall of 2003. 2004, you're right. It was a completely different experience than I have sitting here today.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Knowing that 7 more films have come after it, and
really complicated the film.
They have right. I mean, I actually know. Well, I mean, the universe, the canon, if you will, has told me what's happened in this room before and after, and I mean, there's so many, like.
As I've already discovered, Cary Elwes does come back in a much later film by some means, whatever.
I'm sure.
Some convoluted nonsense, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of convoluted nonsense to come. But the general concept of this one, and we'll get into it in a little while, about his motives and kind of the point behind all of these. It becomes a little, a little twisted. They start layering in other characters. I don't know.
Right.
That's for farther down the road.
Yeah, well, a few things at a time.
The production design here, like, let's look at this toilet.
Oh yeah, I mean,
what is that on the toilet?
I mean, like, Whannel, he envisioned all this so much, and apparently when they presented the film to the studio, because they were kind of interested in where the case was, everything got pitched to them regardless. They had everything drawn out with concept art and wardrobe ideas and all these different things. They had this entire room completely drawn out and planned out between him and Juan.
Sure. Which is fun because I don't know if it's this one or a later one where there's a scene where they show a little like diorama or model of this room.
Yeah, the next one has that.
Okay, so that kind of shows Jigsaw's planning of this room, and I can't help but think of like
construction of the
Juan
ideas.
and Whannel walking into Lionsgate with this little model and going, "Here's what we're doing."
Elwes was so impressed by just like you have all this stuff designed up and ready, and it was like you're so far ahead of the game at this point, being able to present it to people you're just fielding for acting positions in the films. Like this is like usually after like okay, we get the script done, we'll get some casting in here, then we'll get a DP and we'll get some other crew members, then you'll get some stuff, art direction going on. It's like you're already 5 steps ahead of where you need to be.
Right.
So
I mean.
And they did this proof of concept scene, which we'll mention where it comes out later in the film.
And when you walk into your pitch meeting with already everything done, that really helps the execs say, oh, well, okay.
Because, I mean, there are certain execs who don't have all that much imagination, so if you visualize it, they know how to market it. They know the potential what you've got.
Right. I think my favorite, well, not favorite, but when I think of pitch meetings, the one that I think of was for Titanic.
Okay.
When James Cameron, who had a lot of clout at the time, walked into Paramount and said, he walked into the meeting with a painting of the Titanic. And he said, Romeo and Juliet on this boat. And they said, okay. That was it.
No.
This was
$1 million idea.
This was slightly more elaborately planned out than a painting and a point.
Yes.
But if you had walked into Lionsgate and said, we're going to do this escape room, like they would have gone, what is that? I don't know. That's not a thing.
All do they know?
Now there have been like 6 or 7 movies like called Escape Room or based on escape rooms.
Oh, yeah. And they probably haven't been terribly good.
You know what? I haven't gotten to that point.
No.
Poison in your blood to shoot yourself. Oh, now let's get the entendres here. What does that mean? I mean, and what a great setup this is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got one guy who's got to kill the other guy. I don't remember. We were talking over Adam's mission, I guess.
I
guess he didn't really have
I think the tape was kind of alluding to his sort of voyeurism of some sort. It was very vague.
Okay. But
I don't think he particularly had an objective.
They didn't give him a task. But all of the tools that they need to get out of this room are in the room.
Right.
Which, damn it, if that's not... I mean, Let the Game Begin is... I feel like right now, that's the end of Act 1, right? That
jump starts.
That's it. We're now in Act 2.
Right.
Let the Game Begin ends Act 1. 13 minutes in, they are on a roll. We're just moving right along. And, 24-year-old me sitting in the room is holding my breath in this dark room like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I want to figure out the puzzle. Is that heart written in poop? It would appear so. Good Christ.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, at least for me watching the whole thing, it's like, okay, I'm also kind of like trying to... If I was in the situation, I'd be... What am I trying to pick up on in the room in terms of like what can help me to break out of these chains or something like that?
Right.
You're playing the same game as the characters in the film.
What a brilliant thing, right?
Right.
I mean, anytime you can put your audience in... See, one of the things that I absolutely hate about television and also movies is dramatic irony, where the audience knows what's going on, but you're waiting for all the characters on the screen to like figure it out.
Right.
Which is basically every episode of Three's Company.
As we mentioned it many times.
But I hate that. And the best for me, and holy shit, they just got 2 hacksaws. The best is when the audience goes on the same journey and you're like learning and evolving.
Right.
And knowing what we know now about later on in the film, all I can think of is you're ruining that saw blade by running it over these chains and making it duller and awful.
Yeah.
And when you actually have to cut what you're supposed to cut later on, it's going to be much harder.
Yes, it is.
I mean, there goes that saw blade.
I mean, yeah, in the same situation, I'd be doing the same thing, but even watching is like, that blade ain't going to go through that thick of steel, man.
And he just breaks it and... Yeah, that's...
Yeah, that's like for cutting some nice thin wood or something, you know?
Yeah, I don't even know exactly
so much softer material
what this handsaw is really meant to do. But even if you had like a sawzall in there, I don't know if that would cut through the steel chain.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even know. I mean, you need bolt cutters, straight up.
Well, 2 and 2 make 4, right?
It was kind of nice how they photographed this thing, because one was wanted to do in CinemaScope, but it was going to be a lot more expensive for having to build bigger sets for a wider frame and stuff like that, and various other things. But I like how it's not doing a lot of wide shots. You're keeping little kind of focus on just the immediate area around each character here. We're not pulling the camera back too much to kind of free him up. It still feels a little claustrophobic.
Right.
You know, wonderful Danny Glover. He's great. He looks great in this whole film, man.
Yeah. I don't even know, when I watched this that night, I don't even know if I knew Danny Glover was in it. Because I'm pretty sure they kind of, everything was teasery about it. They kind of...
Okay.
I don't think they showed a lot of him, and maybe I missed it, or I also notoriously don't really like trailers.
Right.
But I mean, visually, it looks, like Seven or one of these other...
Yeah, they definitely admitted there was some direct influence from Seven, and how that, especially in the photographic style here, but just in like the serial killer, crime thriller, grungy type of feel to it. There's a certain carry on from that.
Last month. I don't think that adds up later on 5 films down the road when they try to retcon this story. Oh, boy. But in the contents of this particular vacuum, what an amazing, visual, and they have it set up, like the guy's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
He's basically killing himself.
In order to escape, he's got to almost rip himself to pieces.
Right. I mean, and then this fast forward shot is wicked cool. Really shows that manic, I don't know, that frenetic, fast beating panic, yeah. And the saw piece, love it. And so, this is months prior to.
Oh yeah, you said roughly. I don't know.
I think it said 5 months.
5 somewhere in there. Yeah.
I have it written down.
Okay, good.
Allow me to check on my documentation here.
I missed the first time through it. I missed it again on the subs.
Yeah, I don't know. We were talking more about production design and how this could have been a David Fincher film.
Sure.
I show that they said 5 months prior
Okay.
to the
current events.
the escape room, so to speak.
Yes.
This one also I documented at 5 months just because he's telling the story of
Right.
it being before.
Yeah, Elwes is kind of compartmentalizing it all into a basic short window of time.
Right. That would also really suck, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
The old peephole trick. Ooh, that doesn't add up. Interesting. All right. Later on,
Is she the partner that comes back in the next film with
Yes.
Wahlberg? Okay,
Yeah.
she looked almost completely different. I didn't
That's
piece that together.
Detective Cary.
Okay, so
Uh,
Michael Emerson.
Yep.
Some knows him from Lost. I know him from Person of Interest.
Yeah, I was talked into watching Lost, and I was really into it.
I watched one episode, and that was it.
Well, okay. The first couple
I
of
just
seasons, I was into it, and then it really went off the rails quick.
Okay. Elwes does a really good job of playing a little bit of a sleaze.
Yeah.
Just a little flavor in there. I've seen him do that a few times. He's good at it. Oh, this look on Glover here, the buttoned up with no tie. Coming up. It's like,
Oh yeah.
you like this?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
You work it?
It's classy. I don't mind it. I've never really been a big fan of the different colored collar.
Yeah.
Those were really popular at this time because at the movie theater I had to wear a shirt and tie every day, and so I was in the market for dress clothes on the regular.
Sure.
And these were very in fashion, and they just never stuck with me.
No. It feels kind of stockbrokery. Something.
I don't mind the pinstripe.
Cufflinks.
Oh, the cufflinks are great. Yep. It's interesting that they would frame him. And I guess that's kind of the point, right? As the audience member, you're like, wait, why would he be doing anything?
Right. Why would he be involved?
And it's they kind of setting up a whodunit almost.
Right.
At the same time that there's this escape room thing happening.
Right. It starts to lay a certain suspicion on him from the audience. Like, where's the twisting in the narrative going with him being linked into this?
Right. Maybe he's actually the one who set up the whole room.
Right.
Anything. And at that point, if you're willing to accept Cary Elwes as the mastermind, so to speak, then logically you have to assume that maybe Leigh Whannel is also the mastermind,
right?
And maybe he set the whole thing up and is acting a fool.
Surely, because we're getting plenty of Elwes's background here, at least told from his perspective. In almost a Usual Suspects type of way,
right? Which is another perfect film.
The other, Whannell's character, we know nothing. He's not divulging any information about himself.
Right. And boy, she really went on to have a legacy in this series.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, that's... Oh, hell is right.
Yeah. When I was watching this, just the way, like, in terms of how it's kind of set up in a photographic way.
Uh-huh.
Not this part, but in the sort of questioning room.
Interrogation,
like,
okay.
I don't know why there's a clear line of sight over to Elwes' character. I would think it'd be more like the interrogation room where there's a two-way mirror type of thing.
Right.
Where he wouldn't be able to see it. Where whoever's in the interrogation room would not be able to see out.
Right.
Because if you're thinking about Elwes' character is somehow... Dr. Gordon somehow involved with this, you would not want to have Dr. Gordon in clear line of sight of one of the victims here, thinking that maybe she'd be intimidated by him being there.
Right. That's a very good point.
So that was just a scene setup issue that I felt like was a little peculiar.
The clown, I guess, puppet on the tricycle, somehow later to be named Billy, I don't know how or why, is just a frightening... People are afraid of dolls, they're afraid of clowns, they're afraid of all of these things, and you put them on a tricycle and all of a sudden it's just creepy as hell. And it works for me. Like... That's scary.
I mean, in a way, it helps to give sort of a abstract face to whoever you're dealing with. The Jigsaw character, without him revealing who he is.
Right, and that's what's brilliant about it is, you can't claim like, oh, it's not that person because they don't look like the guy in the video.
Or, whatever it is, guy with the mask on or something, it's not the right this, that, or the other thing.
Sure. Here's the another fast forward. They've done 3 times now. Yeah. And this
feels for me personally, I feel some of the editing style's a little kind of a dated type of feel. I don't feel like it holds up quite as well for my eyes watching it at this point in time.
Yeah, I suppose.
Feels a little, I don't know. Not the way I'm used to having films approach things as I've seen them.
You're right. I never even put that together about her being able to see into the next room.
Right. But this was the scene, not as it's shot here, but this was the proof of concept scene they produced to present to Lionsgate to say, hey, we're flying over from Australia. Let's shoot a scene here to kind of show them how we're intending to execute
what
the film.
It's all about.
So, Whannel was in the one in the mask and everything. They actually built the mask themselves.
I mean, it's a really cool looking thing because it's medieval. It looks homemade. It looks
industrial.
Right.
Powerful.
It's intimidating.
Right.
The fact that he's not dead is tremendous.
Right.
And I think that, maybe it's like a double blind here in that they used his reaction to watching her as being like, maybe he's not actually involved.
Right.
I mean, and here we have the innards, which they're showing you just enough of to make you gag.
It was nice that they weren't showing actually the knife stabbing into him and stuff like that. They're showing you only what you need to see for the story purpose. They're not just going gratuitous.
Right, it's not hostile.
Right.
Which is wonderful, by the way. And Shawnee Smith here is, I think, actually underrated as far as a performer.
I don't think I've ever seen anything else she's been in.
I mean, she's
just
been in all these Saw movies as far as I know, but I really think that she does a good job.
Okay.
I mean, look at this thing. They have made like replica doll, of this, and God, they're so expensive. Congratulations, you're still alive. Is amazing. And I really love this whole idea that, this self-help kind of situation where, he's changing the world and changing these people by making them do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen anything like this.
Okay.
With that psychology.
Mm-hmm.
7 is brilliant, and it's it's one of my faves. But I don't consider it a horror movie. It's more.
I don't tend to.
It's
no.
just a crime thriller.
Right.
It's almost like, had 7 wanted to be a horror movie, it would have ended up looking more like this.
Right.
And that's just kind of how I equate it.
7 does more with the aftermath of the crime instead of actually showing you the acts happening.
Right. It's more about the detectives chasing.
Yeah, breaking down the psychology and the methods and everything else.
And here's the accusation. Mm-hmm. I do think, actually, they both kind of become whiny. And Cary Elwes, in particular, really becomes unbearable later on in the movie. Like, I feel like Whannel is really awful here in the front half, and then Cary becomes unbearable in the back half, for me. And it's probably designed that way,
Well, yeah, Elwes is a little bit more, he shows more intelligence at the beginning of the film because he's a little bit further ahead of what's likely happening and who's done this to them.
But just not the
Whannell's
why.
character has information that he's not going to share because, as we find out, his relationship of knowing who Gordon is. So Whannell's character is keeping everything bottled up, and he wants everything else to figure out because he really doesn't know anything about Dr. Gordon, just that he's been kind of observing him in certain situations. He doesn't know shit about the guy, really.
Right, he's just the mark that he's been told to...
He's just a middleman doing a job, as we find out.
I mean, he really is the voice of reason here.
Right. I mean, as a doctor, it makes sense. He has a reasonable, rational mind to kind of deconstruct a situation and figure things out.
Right, and he's probably...
work under stress.
The smartest one in the room.
Right.
Smarter than me and you, smarter than everybody.
But as he becomes more emotionally compromised, that certainly would make him a little bit more desperate and a little bit less agreeable as the film goes along.
And he's not necessarily, the type of doctor that would know about, breaking bones and sawing your leg off, because he's an oncologist.
Right. It was such a thing watching this the first time. It's like the structure was kind of throwing me off a tad because I was just so interested in the stuff in the room and the tension going on, the momentum. The flashbacks kind of kept breaking up what I was kind of really interested in the film. I was a little bit more interested in them breaking down and figuring out what was going on in the room instead of a lot of the backstory. But the backstory is very important to find out. So
this bitch got a lot of stuffed animals on her bed.
It's a very small bed.
And 2 lamps on either side. I don't know.
Well, he's a doctor. He can afford all kinds of random
sure
shit.
He can. Mobiles are also weird and creepy. That clock is creepy.
Very strange.
I mean, it kind of looks like Amanda's headgear.
It was very interesting in terms of the production on this thing because they only had like a little over $1 million.
Yeah, it wasn't very much.
every scene, every setting, every location is the exact same warehouse.
Oh, really?
They found this giant warehouse somewhere, and everything was shot in all different rooms in this giant warehouse. They didn't have to move the production anywhere else. They just had to roll the equipment from one room to the next.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they sure got a lot of mileage out of it because they use this goddamn place for the next 7 years or something.
Oh, God.
How creepy is this? The guy in your room. Also, I feel like maybe I'm wrong about this, but
Sure.
I feel like if you're, what is she, 8, 9-year-old?
Roughly, yeah.
Sees a man in her bedroom, isn't she going to act differently than that?
Far more panicked, far more
I mean,
terrified.
it would just be screaming.
Right.
I mean...
Right. It's...
Like, if it was a boy, I almost think they could get away with this, but the fact that it's a female daughter character, it's almost like... I mean, okay, fine, I'm a bad person for stereotyping, but I just don't buy that she would casually get up, stroll to the other room. Hey, there's a scary man in my room.
And she's really not acting scared in any regard. Yeah.
She doesn't even look scared now.
No.
I mean, granted, he's, calming her or whatever, but...
Sure, but as the scene progresses, we see a lot more regarding what's going on.
I just think it's interesting. She's got nightstands on either side and a lamp on each one on this twin bed. Like, it seems excessive. Got a lot of blue ribbons there. She must be good at something. Probably horsing of some kind. It looks like she's got a
Trophy.
There's a horse trophy and a horse on a wall. She's a regular equestrian. That's the right word, right?
I believe.
Yes, yeah. That takes a lot of money. You gotta have a lot of money to ride horses and keep horses.
Yeah, and hire someone to train you. Sure.
It's funny. I've seen this so many. I love this movie. I've seen it so many times. There's little things that when we're watching it with this like this.
Yeah.
You're
examining the full frame.
Things that you don't really notice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for redressing our warehouse, they did a pretty nice job to kind of take all this kind of brick walls and whatnot, kind of make it look have a certain aesthetic to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would never know that these are in the same location.
All right.
What prompted him to do that?
Well, he's the one narrating the backstory about his family.
Oh, I see. I see. The last thing he said to his daughter. Got it.
Right.
I feel like this conversation is slightly...
A little warmer than it really should be.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of taken me out of it. Like, I don't know if they would actually be having this.
It's decompressed the situation.
The tension.
Too much, yeah.
I mean, aside from...
Because he's been the one that's kind of... Whannell's character has been a little bit more the panic type of character. He's a little bit more animated about the situation. So
right.
The fact that he's now chilled out, which won't last long, but...
And like you said, now he's withholding information, which, if he thinks, I don't know, like, I feel like you'd want to work together, but there's this distrust.
Right. Again, getting a little ahead of the film to talk a little bit more about things in a context, okay? He was hired to follow around Dr. Gordon to take photos of him.
Sure.
He doesn't know exactly who the guy is, doesn't know exactly who the guy who hired him is. He feels like he's been kind of worked into a trap with these guys.
Right. I mean, scary as shit, right? I mean, there's some panic, a little bit.
A little bit.
Heavy breathing.
Maybe not, I don't know. We'll see. Trying to assess the performance.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's like Black Christmas.
That is the reaction I would expect.
That's what you need.
That should have been the first reaction.
That should have been.
And meanwhile, I mean, look at that. That's just terrifying. And, you know, here's kind of that whodunit aspect that we were talking about, where we don't really know who this person is. They're gloved, shot from the chest down, so it really could be anybody.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I don't even know/remember, is this supposed to be John, or is this supposed to be Zip that's holding them hostage here?
Well, it's very interesting, because I was watching it, I thought it was John.
Okay.
But it's kind of interesting in how there's a few points in time where they show just a little bit of his face. But Emerson and Bell have kind of similar features, so it kind of tricks you out, even knowing it.
They
going
do have
into the film
a similar shaped face,
right? Because when you watch this fresh and not knowing that this is not Jigsaw here, I was like, "Why are they showing this?"
Oh, there it
like
is.
That?
Yeah.
That kind of looks like Tobin Bell. Even if you go back, if you go into the film like I did and knowing...
Right, but at the same time...
Obviously, this isn't anything that they planned in that regard, but I'm just saying, as I watched this film and kind of like, okay, I know what Tobin Bell looks like. I know he's the killer of the film. He kind of looks like him when you have him in these kind of half-revealed shots.
You also have to remember, though, that if you're watching this in 2004...
You've never seen Bell's face in this film whatsoever.
You have no idea. I mean, aside from him being a patient.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a well-established actor either.
He's a character actor. I looked at his filmography, just random TV guest roles, stuff like that.
Right. I mean, he wasn't a starring guy. You'd probably never seen him before. If you had, it was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, obviously...
And even Emerson, they only showed him for like one or two shots early in the film. They didn't really give him a prominence in those moments.
So showing him there really makes you go, okay, he's the guy who's in charge and he's doing this. Mm-hmm. You have no... I mean, until you've watched later movies, which you wouldn't have done in 2004 because they didn't exist, you have no knowledge of Tobin Bell as even really being in this movie at this point.
Well, right.
And I like this little twist where it's, they're showing you Glover as being like the obsessed cop.
Right. I mean, and when I was watching this first time, I got a little confused with the structure here, because I wasn't sure if what we're seeing is, because here's a flashback, but what we were just seeing wasn't a flashback. It's something that's happening at the exact same time, but this flashes back. It got me a little confused about where things were landing, how they were structuring it out.
Well, put your fucking seatbelt on, because because this entire... Every movie after this is predicated on the idea that you don't know what time it is.
Right.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Everyone. Never should have let you go. So clearly, he's on Dr. Gordon, which is completely based on the pen
Right. It's the only piece of evidence he has that leads toward anyone, so...
Right, I go with it.
What else are you going to do? Even if Dr. Gordon isn't the one doing this, there's some kind of link towards who did. So one way or another, he has to focus in on this guy and deconstruct his life. Oh, Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
High living. That's got to be paid.
What's that?
A little paid. You think Krispy Kreme threw a few bucks in there?
Ooh, I don't know.
Bid out Duncan?
I mean...
I wouldn't mind sponsoring some Krispy Kreme. There's not a lot of them left, but I wouldn't mind.
The movie's not set on the East Coast, and, Duncan is headquartered in Boston, so... actually, I don't know where it's set. Where is this set? Do we know? Have they indicated what town we're in or what part of the world?
I don't believe so.
I mean, Lionsgate is Vancouver, so...
yeah.
I don't know if they shot this in Vancouver or...
I didn't pick up that information. We'll find out in just a moment here. No, they shot in Los Angeles.
Okay. I mean, I love detective movies because I love puzzles. I love, figuring it out.
Yeah, I can't write a mystery worth a piss.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I also enjoy them, because I don't know how to reverse engineer a mystery.
Gotcha.
To be able to write one out.
Right. Stephen King knows how to do it.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
He can do anything he wants. But I love that, the old... Let's pause it and...
At least he's not doing let's enhance the image.
Oh, yeah, that drives me
nuts.
nuts.
Fuck you. He's like, no, he's on a grainy ass freaking tube TV. Let's go for that.
See, I couldn't hear...
I couldn't figure out what the sound was.
Right,
Not a clue. I thought it was maybe a train going by or something, because all I could hear was just white noise.
Right. But at the same time, the fact that they know... there's a piece of trivia, now that I'm 5, 6, 7 films deep, I don't remember what it is exactly, but that Stygian name of the street...
Okay.
Aside from being associated with the River Styx and us Styx fans, aside from that, I
think
feel
I heard something about that unrelated to this.
That was the name of the original either the short film or the studio or the
Well, the short film was called Saw, so
okay.
It was probably something else
but. Stygian was something. Maybe it was the name of their little production company, or I don't know. It was, but there's. I don't really know how I came about this information. And I remember when I watched this, a couple months ago in prep, I thought, "Ooh, I'm going to bring that up," and wouldn't you know it, I fucking forgot.
Yeah, also talking about in terms of 7, it's okay, 7 never establishes what city it's located in either, so... Which I kind of like. It's you don't have a preconception of okay, this is New York. You're going to see all the New York landmarks.
It felt like New York.
Yeah. But it was all shot in Los Angeles. So it was just okay, let's just make a city that could be any major metropolitan sort of rundown thing. It could be Detroit. It could be this. It could be...
This could be...
Philadelphia
in my town.
Something. Right.
It could be next door.
Right.
That's what makes it scary.
Any sort of industrial kind of rundown area of some major metropolitan area. It's really not necessary to the story to really kind of pinpoint where it's set. So that frees you up. You don't really have to deal with certain landmarks or knowing the geography of
and here's
the city or something.
The little diorama I was referring to.
Yeah, how?
I mean, how crazy would it be to, like, you're a cop and you stumble into, like, the bad guy's lair here.
All right.
And you... Oh, my God. Like, they're in it, right? Like, this is it.
They're in the thick of it, yeah. And how's that work for you?
What a great little jump scare. I mean, holy shit, right? And this is like the ultimate Sophie's Choice right here, where they...
Free the guy or catch the criminal.
Right. Let's see what he's gonna do. Like...
Well, also, they're here without a warrant, so anything they find here is completely inadmissible, so they can't really...
Well...
So... But also, they want to see who it is, make sure that they're getting the guy that they're after. Just don't shoot at some random guy, you don't know who it is.
Right. Although, had they discovered probable cause, I think they could have got away with it. I don't know what the probable cause... Well, I guess their probable cause would be they saw this location on the video. They might have been
Well, he says, okay, his partner says, do we have enough evidence to get a warrant? And he said, why more or less, why bother?
Okay.
Let's go check it out. So they're intentionally subverting the system to just get ahead and try to get the guy regardless. So, semantics. It's not Law and Order. It's not homicide, life on the street here.
Isn't it interesting that he would do this particular game in his own warehouse as opposed to setting it up in an outside location that he's done for all the others?
Well, he says specifically, you're a test subject for something greater. So I'm just, this is like the prototype of something I'm
trial
do
run
for a much larger game I have in mind.
What's in the box?
Oh, no.
See? Full circle.
Oh, boy.
Again,
Yeah.
Everything is about making choices.
Right. He's trying to play into the morality of the situation. Oh.
And
you didn't see that coming.
You sure do not.
50 minutes into the movie.
No, I mean, you're thinking.
Well,
wait, you're gonna kill the one actor in this movie that is known for anything?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess Cary Elwes was known, but
yeah,
Cary Elwes was a B or C list actor, and
right. He mostly did supporting roles and a few starring roles here and there.
Right. I mean, like
this
you
is the guy who's been working with Mel Gibson on a couple multi-$100 million films.
Yeah, I mean, he's A-list.
Yeah. He's been in some Oscar-nominated films, stuff like that.
Sure. Places in the Heart with Sally Field. Jesus Christ, he was wonderful. 1984. What a great movie.
Oh. This is a good this is a good trap coming up here, man.
I tell you what, I didn't see this coming.
Oh hell no!
And which I think is,
I was almost expecting, okay, whoever it was he just shot is probably not Jigsaw. That was
right.
Probably what my
a decoy of some kind.
Misdirection was going to be.
Yep. At this point, I'm shocked that Danny Glover is still up and running. And
it's a little surprised this is not the end of him in the film. Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty obvious, and I guess you're misdirected by the spider web that you don't look down. And what an unbelievable kill. Where I don't know, like everything about this movie is, well, I didn't see that coming, which to me is the earmark of a great movie. Which is why I probably put this in my 5 favorites. There's one of those sliding door on the wall things, which lead you to believe that perhaps this set right here is the same, in the same vicinity as where the action is happening in the quote unquote the present events.
Yes.
And again, now we see this, so we don't know how far back in time that was, and you're like, oh, I see. And at this point,
we at least know it's probably within that 5-month span that Gordon alluded to.
It has to be.
But this is your style of art direction. The photos on the wall.
Stringing
all the things together. This is.
I love maps. I love all of it.
This is gorgeous.
Give it to me. Although that was very like homeless man. You know, it was a mess.
He's a little.
I like charts and graphs.
He's a little head down into the situation. He's less analytical and more manic insanity obsession. Right.
But again, they're playing with that time change.
Right.
Where you're like, oh, is this then? Is this now?
Yeah, you don't know when. The scene with him in the apartment, you don't know exactly if that's parallel to this or exactly what's...
But the scar is healed, so you know...
Right, there's some time that's passed.
Well, they also showed him looking across, right? Across the way at the...
Right.
At the apartment or whatever. So he's watching somebody. Oh, X marks the spot. See, my first question would be, how did you know?
It's like, okay, we got to explain to the audience, okay, why didn't they see it before so he has to bring up the question. So, just a tweak of a little thing there. They have to explain why it glows in the dark when it didn't before. No.
I don't know. I feel like you still could have gotten that line in afterward.
Right.
I just don't think that's the natural first reaction.
Right.
I always laugh at them throwing things to each other.
Yeah, I'm just expecting that something to drop down a drain or something, or...
Neither one of them can throw anything with a remote sense of...
accuracy.
Right. Like, it always goes past, or...
Right.
I mean, there's one where he does, like, this overhand, like, flick of the wrist, and you're like, what? Can you just kind of lob it over there like a normal person? What are you doing?
But yeah, working into my psychology is like, every time I walk over, like, one of the storm drains, I'm afraid I'm going to drop my keys in there. There's just something, it's like, it just happens every time. So when he's flinging the key around and this stuff, I'm just expecting some grate somewhere is going to fall down and something's going to be fucked over. I just expect something that go wrong.
Well, the very first shot number 1 was the thing going down
the drain, yeah.
So I don't know if
Which is smart because it happens so early before you have a certain cognition of exactly what's going on in the scene.
Right, you don't know if that's important.
You haven't registered it. It's not until later on when they replay the moment that you understand that it clicks back in your head of what something happened.
I don't ever remember dialing a cell phone and getting that wee sound.
I don't know.
I don't think that's... Maybe it was a back then thing. I didn't have a cell phone for very long before this movie came out, so...
Sure.
oh, actual time frame. This is literally the night before.
Mm-hmm. Now this set felt kind of unlike a usual parking garage to me, so they had to use what they had.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very parking
weird.
garagey.
Yeah, it's just like
an alley that they
right.
somebody parked under the train tracks, like in Chicago. There's one of these scenes here where
they replayed this a couple of times.
Where I feel like there's no way that he didn't see the other guy. Whether it be the guy coming up behind.
We'll get to that.
And, that's just us being nitpicky again, but that's what you've come to expect on this show. So... we got stuck in a parking garage one time in Nashville at a stick show, believe it or not.
Okay.
And it all full circle.
Sure did.
We were waiting by the bus and got to talking to the band, and our car was in the parking garage that locked at like midnight, and
there you go.
And it just, oh my God, we almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
But how creepy is this?
Oh.
I think there's something about the pig face that's so unsettling.
Right. It's like only some nut job is going to be doing that.
Right. And I do like these transitional wipes that happen.
Yeah.
I think that's a stylistic, thing that I can get behind.
Yeah.
His eye makeup has always really impressed me too. I don't know why, but I don't even know if it's good. I just like it.
For Elwes?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little something. I don't know if... I'm not going to say it's so much sunken, but there is a certain scowl going on there in a certain way with the brow.
And I don't know, they put that underneath his eyes to make it look like he hasn't slept, and
sure,
even though clearly he has.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to picture this with an Australian accent, and I'm having a hard time.
I just watched the documentary that was on streaming today. It's like I had no freaking clue. Is James Wan in this interview doing an impression of Leigh Whannel? Couldn't figure it out.
Is he mocking him?
Yes.
Oh, God. That would really make a bad situation worse.
Well, it certainly does for him. I mean, he doesn't get out of this sort of this quivering lip situation for the rest of the film. Yeah, they did put a little red on his eyelids and everything. Yeah, nice little touches.
I mean, they're barefoot, which is also gross. Ugh. Everything is gross in this room. They've done such a good job of making you, the audience viewer,
I need a tetanus shot or something.
Yeah, not want to be there.
God's sakes.
I mean, looking at the toilet and the bathtub and the shit on the wall. So here he's now putting the clues together.
Yeah.
Little does he know that the poison isn't actual poison. It's like, chemo or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Here's another thing that I always thought, it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But there's no way you're going to tell me that he's just going to smoke that cigarette without noticing a big red bloody spot on the tip.
Sure.
And now they're going to work in cahoots? And Emerson is so, like, squirrely.
Oh, yeah. He's great at that stuff.
And really, I mean, at this point, you are set up to believe that he is the mastermind.
Right. Which, again, with my unique perspective, knowing that's not the case, I'm sitting here watching the film the first time. It's like, okay, so what's really his role in this whole thing? Trying to figure out where the real deal is falling into place here. What's the other game behind the scenes of this?
Which is, it's so interesting that you have that, like, alternate game that you're playing.
Right. Which shows how well the film works when you can come into it, whether it's brand new in theaters or 16 years later, knowing general details of the franchise and still have the film work in a different perspective.
There's a lot
that they couldn't even anticipate for.
There's a lot of mystery movies where after you watch it, you go, that was cool, but I don't ever want to watch it again because now I know.
It's not as intriguing anymore.
Right.
I mean, some people have that for Usual Suspects, but I don't. I find there's a lot of value to watch that film over again because of the characters in it.
That one is so well done that you want to watch it again and go, let me see if I can see what they, like, now that I know.
The little things put together, yeah.
Right. Movies like that make you want to watch them again.
Oh, we passed the whole scene where Whannell's doing the bad acting.
Yeah, it was
like,
awful.
Yeah, I picked up on it. I was like, nah, man, ain't freaking buying this for one goddamn second. Over playing the choking on the fake poison and everything. It's funny, the electricity sound effect is like the same one used for like with the Mountie.
The Mountie, right?
The Mountie is
the cattle prod.
Or
yeah.
God knows, like you had to buy the stock library on this one. You couldn't do some fresh sound design.
That's so funny that there would be like a Foley sound bank that you could just.
Oh yeah.
Just a general, I need that ricochet sound. Pa-ching! And then, here's that.
Oh, yeah. I was watching one of the Jason Bourne movies, like, all these body hit sound effects. I've got these things from, Garage... Where the heck they have on the Apple thing? Garage Band.
Oh, yeah.
Or what the heck is this? The old hat.
There's that famous one.
Sounds really old and stock.
There's that famous one of the guy, the falling one.
Oh, the Wilhelm scream.
Wilhelm scream, yeah. Which has been around for like 50 or 60 years. I think they just keep using that same guy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There's like a whole documentary about that.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this. Here we have a little bit of information here.
It looks like he's on the cover of GQ.
He's never looked better.
I don't know. He definitely lives in a shithole. He's got graffiti on his own door.
Yeah. Weird.
He's got no doorknob.
But you know what? Photography is an expensive hobby, really. I mean...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I took one of those graphic design courses. I mean, it wasn't photography, but it was basically developing film. And that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of money to go into because, I mean... You got to maintain that stuff. You got to keep it clean and
even like
dispose of it properly, and paying for film stock is very expensive as well.
Right, much more expensive than the digital era we live in now, because digital cameras were kind of new at this time.
Oh yeah.
But now, I have a super fancy DSLR camera, where lenses cost between $200 and $1,000 a piece just for a lens.
Oh yeah.
So. he's probably got a $1,500 setup in his hand right now.
Oh, bare minimum.
And how is he living he's living in this apartment with that hobby?
Yeah, it's a little wonky.
I mean, maybe he gets paid. I don't know. Here we have a little, like... I feel like this has been used in a couple movies where you take the photo to light up the room.
Maybe. This is something along those lines, yeah.
I mean, awesome, right? Because, like, it's suspenseful, it's dark.
And you only get to see it for an instant.
Right. And, like, that there's a jump scare coming.
Right.
And the fact that he's done 3, and you're like, okay, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is the one where he's going to get me. The flashbulb is going to... Oh, no, it wasn't that one.
No, I gotta wait for that.
Now we got the sound effect, which almost makes you think maybe they're not going to do the jump scare on the flashbulb. I think that's the only time that the doll makes that noise, which is weird.
So far, I think so, in what I've seen of the franchise, which is only 2 films.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Fantastic. What time does his game end? Do we remember?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. Now, just a half hour ago, maybe, in story time, Zepp was watching these two at another location, but now he's at their house?
Right. You start wondering these things. So everything's kind of disparate, and we're playing with, again, time and place, stuff like that. So
that scene where he goes and jumps out of the closet was actually like just one scene before this one, really.
Right, but also that was the night before.
Oh, yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah, because he goes in there,
he goes to
calm her down, he leaves.
The parking garage.
Then he's off to the parking garage, so this all happens, of course, in a non-linear fashion in how we're unfolding those things, but...
I didn't take very good notes on this first one, because I was like, oh, I get it, I understand. I started getting real detailed with my later lineage. And there's another great twist. Because even though she was, fed that line, now you're wondering, like, how does the killer know what's happening?
Right. And it starts comment more on once the unfolds and everything. But again, so the killer's telling her to tell him not to trust him, but it's like, okay, is that a truth? Is that a reality, or is it another piece of fiction?
Right, more misdirection. Mysteries are so hard to develop.
Right.
And this one is so good.
I mean, a lot of it has to really kind of start with building some solid characters. Who they are, where they come from, what their mentalities are, especially with Dr. Gordon, what his little secrets are here and there, what he's not entirely forthcoming about certain things. So it's like you have to have a certain texture to the characters to create certain developments in the story to have it be interesting and play off very interestingly. And
the ability to start at the end and build backwards.
I think, and like I said, you kind of have to reverse engineer where it ends up and find out where it kind of deconstructs backwards.
That is such an art, and I've never really tried it in my own personal writings, but
you gotta know where the story is going to be able to start out where it needs to,
and
with the smallest clue. But yeah, this considering it's very well lit. There's nobody else here. It's a little on the contrived side that he doesn't notice him. Surely, I imagine if they had a little bit more time and money, they could have done a little bit more with that little scene there.
Yeah, I don't know what the implication was.
Maybe just the geography of the location could have been improved with a little bit more resources or something. So as I said, it doesn't really look like a parking garage too much. It looks a little makeshift, which obviously it was. And especially there where he literally looks over his shoulder right in the line of sight of the camera. It's like, eh. But apparently a lot of the still shots are from the actual still photographer on set, and one decided, hey, these are really, really good. I wish I had time to have actually shot these myself for the film. So we kind of integrated them into the edit.
That's interesting.
Some of them might just be kind of like still frames from like this shot here or something like that, but a lot of stuff.
There are some candids though in there.
When you had Glover's character and they're going through evidence and the crime scene stuff, that's very much the on-set still photographer. In some cases, like the restriction of budget still makes a lot of these scenes feel a little claustrophobic. Since they are dealing with limited resources, they're still having these scenes. They're probably not as big and expansive of sets as they would have had otherwise. So
right.
It still keeps a little bit of that uncomfortable quality in the film.
Yeah, everything
relaxing.
Feels like a little rundown,
right?
Crappy.
Right.
I mean, aside from their apartment or whatever.
Yeah, his residence. Everything else feels a little low rent and stuff like that. So, like I was saying, it's like it doesn't allow the film to relax itself in these environments too much. Like I said, the photography here is really nice.
Yeah, I like the foreground, background aspects. And this is still just the night before, right?
Yeah. So she paged him, and that was what happened when he was in the girl's bedroom, so. And then after this is going into. Yeah, goes into the parking garage where he gets abducted, so.
Because I always kind of thought the parking garage was where he lived.
Well, remember, this is...
You know what I mean? Like, I always thought it was him coming out of his house in the...
Yeah, it's a little... When you don't have a lot of establishing shots, it kind of makes these little fuzzy here and there. Yeah, so, I mean, here I'm thinking, like, okay, did Jigsaw hire him to do this? To hunt him, to kind of follow him around and then put him both in the trap? But then...
Right.
There's a wonderful diversion off of that here.
Some of his Whannel's reactions and his dialogue seem not correlating to the situation he's in.
Right. I'm glad they got a guy like Elwes to be Dr. Gordon, because it's a lot more emotional
substance,
texture, whatnot to really deal with. So it shows off a lot more he's got to carry a lot more weight in the film, I think.
Used to be a cop.
Can't crack the case, you're kicked off the force.
That's right. And then he becomes this guy with with the charts and the graphs and the maps and the pictures and the clippings.
And the graffiti on the wall.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a seedy part of town.
No.
I mean, more misdirection, although as the viewer you don't know it's misdirection. Everyone's just accusing everyone of everything.
Right, because like I said earlier, when they're having Gordon tell the police investigation upon him, it throws a little bit of suspicion on him about exactly where his part in this entire thing goes. Now you're throwing it back on, it was Adam.
Adam, yeah.
Adam. Now you're throwing the suspicion over here, so it's a nice counterbalance in the film. You're not putting it all on Gordon, you're not putting all the story on him. Now you got to shift the focus. You could give him more of a purpose in the story, more of a cog.
We've all seen those movies where all of the suspicion is on one person, and they lead you and lead you and lead you, and then all of a sudden, oh, not that person, it was somebody else. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, that brings to mind another film Elwes was in. You remember Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman?
I do. I actually read the book before I saw the movie. Carry on with your story.
Oh, spoiler for anyone who has not seen that
Spoiler alert.
Basically, they spend the whole film chasing down red herrings and false leads, stuff like that. And the guy they're actually looking for is being Elwes the whole time. He's been a cop sitting around in the background of all the scenes in the entire film, but he's not had any real development towards any point to that end of the film to lead anyone towards that. So it's like, okay, we're really underdeveloped in that regard.
Right. You just introduced evidence in your closing argument.
Right.
Which is a big no-no.
It's not like, again, Usual Suspects. You can go back and find the little clues. They didn't lay any clues in there.
Right.
They just held off doing anything with the character until they had a time to swerve. Yeah.
Which is a totally the difference between an A kind of movie like The Usual Suspects and a shit movie. I shouldn't say it's a shit movie, but
a lesser quality.
Because, again, movies like The Usual Suspects and like this one, when you get done watching it, you literally want to turn around and turn it right back on to go, wait a minute, let me see
reconstruct the pieces.
Right, I want to see it again knowing what I know now.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that would be like the most ultimate compliment.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to write a movie and somebody were to say, as soon as it was over, I wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
You bastard fuck. Although it was written on the subtitles as you bastard exclamation point and then fuck exclamation point as opposed to you bastard comma
fuck. Yes.
Or I guess no comma, which I like it better without the punctuation.
Yes.
Anyway, English lesson aside. So, still, I mean, where are we at? An hour 23.
Yeah, we got about 20 minutes tops with the credits.
And as a first-time viewer, without your series knowledge,
right.
Emerson/Zepp is still the killer.
Yes, that's all we have the information for. This guy's the threat.
Although, this is, aside from the part where he said his name is John in the hospital, this is the first time we've really heard him talk. So, we know that his voice doesn't match, but that's been enhanced over however
Sure.
many, you can always screw with your voice, so
Right.
maybe that's not a thing. Yeah. Oh, the voice change
Yeah.
is so great.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Why would you even hesitate? You pulled the trigger.
Well, you also think she's got her little girl in there.
Wouldn't that be more reason to just eliminate the threat?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, do you want to kill a man in front of your own kid and traumatize her in that regard? I mean, she's only been traumatized to an extent, but I mean,
I don't know.
also she's probably never handled a gun in her life, so I mean, she's just
Well, she's holding it with her left hand. There's more screaming that
yeah, she's good at it. Both of them.
she would have screamed the first time.
Yes. So now we get a little context with Glover here.
He's legit like watching on video.
Yeah.
What a life, right? He just sits and illegally. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. He's not shining it into their apartment, so
No.
he's just shining it at their apartment.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I think that would be illegal.
Invasion of privacy, sure.
Apparently, the front door was wide open.
Front door wide open.
He's too old for this shit.
Indeed. These two can't hit the broadside of anything.
No, neither one.
Oh, shit.
Great reaction out of Elwes too, because
Oh, yeah.
he's
fuck
just,
all this. He knows what's going on.
right. He's just an auditory voyeur to
Right,
the whole
right.
thing, which I guess is an oxymoron, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He doesn't know he's
Right.
being shot.
Well, yeah, because all he knows that if he didn't achieve what he was supposed to achieve by 6 o'clock, his family would be murdered. And so that's what he's coping with right now.
His clothes are very baggy.
He's a little oversized.
I don't really understand that wardrobe choice, unless on the part of the filmmakers just wanted it to be misdirection for us, that we, think it could be kind of anybody because it's too big for him, so it, could be somebody, I don't know. But again, he's the only villain that we've ever been presented
Right.
with.
There's no other suspects.
And that's actually pretty good acting.
Shocker!
Oh, yeah. He did a little foam at the mouth. I mean, that was good. That was good. There's some frenetic editing.
Yeah.
Too much for you, huh?
It's a little much.
Doesn't bother me.
I don't know. Just
Oh, let's just throw rocks at him.
he can't hit the broad. No one can hit the broadside of jack shit in this movie.
Well, again, nobody's good. These two can't throw for fuck across the room. It looks like his foot's already broken. I mean, look at this thing.
He's gonna be limping like Horace Pinker then.
There you go. I mean, I see what you're saying about the
editing?
the fast forward,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't mind it.
I just look at it as like it looks kind of film school to me.
Yeah, okay.
Feels a little on the some young filmmaker trying to look kind of edgy and kind of
Yeah,
cutting edge and stuff like that. So
sure.
And knowing some of Wan's later films, that's not a style that he would employ in other projects after this, so.
Did you see Dead Silence?
No.
Also about dolls? It's
No,
amazing.
No. I saw Insidious some time ago. It's been a long time.
Dead Silence is awesome. Which I think was the next one after this.
It sounds about right, yeah.
The old shootout here. And I love the just out of reach aspect of anything in this room.
Mm-hmm.
And his acting, not so good.
Elwes?
Yeah.
Something's a little...
I mean, I will say this part of it, the manic part of it, I
The manic
dig.
part, yeah. It just, like, throughout the rest of the film, he's kind of presented in kind of a shade of sleaze, a shade of kind of, like, unscrupulousness. So you haven't had a lot of sympathy for him. So now when he's all desperate and crying over his family, it just feels a little...
Forced?
A little forced. It just doesn't feel like it's built up as organically with how we've been following and introduced to the character. The fact that, I mean, like, you see when we're introduced to his family, he's like, okay, I'll deal with my daughter in just a minute. Let me finish up this paragraph on this thing I'm writing.
Right.
So he's a little dismissive of him. You don't feel like he has as much
God, I can't.
deep affection or whatnot. It's a little...
He's
a little too self-important of a character to kind of feel like it all fits together as well.
His break here with reality.
Yeah.
And that whole, the human body your mind can overtake
right.
and I mean, he's literally been pushed to the brink of insanity.
Right.
And he's got a rusty old gnawed down saw blade because he used it on a chain and a lock.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like to even take a clean saw blade and run it once.
Or even just what it would be like psychologically to get to the point where you would have to do that. I can't fathom that.
I can't go there.
Right.
And apparently he can because he is now mobile.
Well, oh, there you go.
And, I was actually shocked. I was shocked that when I thought he was dead the first time.
Right.
And then he lives, and you're like so excited that, your hero didn't die.
Keep on trucking, Danny.
And then they kill him off anyway, and it's like a double whammy. He's white in the face. A great makeup.
Yeah.
Look at this makeup. Similar to Thom Matthews in Return of the Living Dead.
Oh.
I don't see any bullet hole or blood over there.
Yeah. They almost execute it in an ambiguous way.
And these are like neighbors or something?
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. Like, I will say it's his reaction, even though it's not very well acted, is genuine. I think that's how he would probably behave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's some blood. I mean, it's... We're still in the phase of we don't know what's up, what's down, who's who.
Sure.
What's gonna happen? Although he's beating a man with the top of a toilet lid.
Oh, it's a bad way to go.
I would think having your brains bashed in would probably not be an ideal method. Didn't we just discuss this on our most recent commentary about ways to die?
Yeah. You ain't going very far, pal.
I mean, it's so... There's such this sense of hopelessness, even though he made it, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, you're like...
free from the shackle, but...
At what cost?
Even he's like... Well, one, he doesn't want to be stuck here alone. And two, is like, okay, you're bleeding to death. You're not... Like I just said, you're not getting very far.
Right.
Even if you can get to the phone, you don't know where you are to be able to tell anyone where to come get you, and by the time they get here, you're not going to be alive.
Right. Or at least not conscious.
No.
I also don't buy that he would still have his tape recorder.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Considering it was... Because I don't know how many... Like, this was only just the day before.
Right, so he's probably been on this for at least 48 hours, if not longer than that.
I mean... So, this is the first time at an hour 37 where we've learned that he was actually the victim of a game himself.
Yes.
Which makes you question mark.
And this.
And then the biggest reveal, and one of the greatest movie reveals, I think, ever.
And the thing is, throughout the entire film, when they're shooting it, that's actually Tobin Bell on the floor the entire time they're shooting these scenes.
Yeah, it wasn't a dummy.
No. They actually had the actual actor just laying there, and people walking all over him, and with everyone's bad aim, keeps smacking them in the head with shit and everything.
Right, dropping wallets and phones and keys and saws and... And now we recognize the voice. We know it's him. They flash back from scene one, the bookend.
Yes. And it's nice where they had the little glow there, so you could at least remember that from the opening thing. If you don't know what it is, you at least remember the blue glow.
The front row seat line was amazing.
Oh.
The fact that he was controlling it from right there in the room.
And it's very smart with the fact that he laid on the floor with his head turned towards Adam, not Dr. Gordon, who would have recognized who it was.
Right. Even though he had on this,
prosthetic, but at least he could never see his face.
Right.
That's a real nice shot. All the effect going on in the cinematography, that's beautiful stuff.
And you end the movie with the door slamming, and that's it.
And the screams.
I mean, I was literally jaw on the ground for like 10 minutes after this was over. It was the coolest goddamn thing. Maybe...
And me watching this, I even knew that ending going into it.
But you still had the same reaction?
And it was still very good.
Yeah.
I was still very impressed with how it was executed.
Now imagine being the only two people in a dark cinema.
Oh, hell.
At midnight, or one in the morning at this point.
Perfect.
I mean, not knowing anything because it's the first.
Oh, yeah.
It was the ultimate cinema. Like, it's one of those like cinematic experiences that I'll never...
You just walk out of theaters like, just get ready for it, everyone.
Yes. Yeah, we literally, like, left the theater, and I think there were still some employees there that we passed on the way, and I was like, it's the most unbelievable thing you're ever going to see. I mean, it immediately, like, jumped right there with, you know, Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street as this thing, like, this movie-going experience that just took my breath away. And again...
I was going to say that the editor on this ends up being one of the later directors in the franchise. I recognize the name.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway.
I don't know. I was... maybe my story's done. But I think it's just a brilliant piece of business. And... Oh, squirrel! Squirrel Motley!
Yeah, so much. I mean, seeing where James Wan has come from since then, since this film came out, you can definitely put him in that same sort of John Carpenter, Wes Craven category.
Didn't he do, like, one of the Marvel movies?
He did Aquaman.
Aquaman,
for DC.
Okay.
He's done Fast and Furious movies. He's
okay.
Also, like I said, Dead Silence, Insidious, Conjuring. So the guy's made a very steady track record of just building himself up as a very solid director in a lot of different areas of filmmaking. He's now shepherding things as a producer, an executive producer to get things done. He's producer on like the new Mortal Kombat reboot that's coming out sometime.
I do think
he's just a big player now.
The difference, because I think Insidious and The Conjuring. Now, The Conjuring, are you a fan?
Yeah.
I love the look and the feel of it. The supernatural stuff just isn't my bag.
Okay, yeah.
But I do like The Conjuring, I think, more than Insidious. But I think it's interesting that...
So I went back and saw Insidious after The Conjuring. I was like, okay.
The Conjuring 2, I really liked.
As strong as the other one.
I did like The Conjuring 2 a lot. And then, I mean, they've branched off. There's The Nun. There's this
Annabelle,
whole...
and it's
all
very
of this.
mixed bag.
Which, it's Fascinating to me that his, like, original movie has spawned another whole universe.
Right.
But to think that, like, Saw is so... It's more what I like as far as, like, a slasher or it's a psychological...
Real people in a real situation.
Right. Where, as opposed to that supernatural. But the fact that he's excelled in both and had 3 franchises come off of his films...
all started within the span of 10 years.
Sure. I mean, Dead Silence was kind of a one-off that I feel like has kind of gone under the radar. Most people don't...
Yeah, I forgot about it until you just mentioned it a while ago.
I really like it, even though...
Well, obviously, I had never saw it, but I was aware of it at the time.
I recommend it. So, anyway, this is just the very tip of the iceberg.
Oh, God.
Of the ridiculousness to come. But... Okay, well, I'll save the money talk and the sequel money and all of that talk for later on.
Yeah.
We'll pick that up on the next one.
Just in terms of money, this one made basically like 100 times its budget.
Yeah, it made like $100 million.
Yeah, so, hello. Anyway, we'll be back with other stuff soon. Thank you guys. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.